Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Talking Taylor. Today we are joined by the lovely Kristin Draucker.
Hi!
And we're so excited to do another one of these where we get to be in the same room. And if you're wondering why she looks so immaculately staged, we're going to do an event later for our donors. A little season preview of our upcoming City Center preview season happening at City Center March 24th through March 31st.
Yeah. We're going to do a little rush hour this evening by Larry Penguin, which was your last Talking Taylor.
I know. So if you all have not either A, bought your tickets to see Rush Hour, or B, watched the Talking Taylor from last week to hear Larry's thoughts on it, you should definitely do so. Hi.
Hi!
This is so different not to look in the
I
camera
know,
and
yeah. It's like your second one that you've done sitting next to someone.
Right, and the one that I did, I was like answering questions. Mm-hmm. So, well, let's start how we normally start. Where are you from? Where were you born? Tell us all about you.
I was born in Washington, D.C.,
Okay.
but my parents moved to Charlotte, North Carolina right afterwards.
Okay.
So when I was I'm adopted. So when I was adopted when I was 13 days old, and when I was 26 days old, we moved to North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
And I was big into gymnastics in North Carolina, but I didn't dance at all.
Okay.
And it wasn't until my parents moved to York, Pennsylvania, when I was 14, that I kind of started dancing a little bit.
Wow.
So it was really late.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I spent all of high school in York, Pennsylvania, and moved to New York when I was 19 years old.
So when you were in New York, what kind of training were you doing?
So I moved to New York, as I said, when I was 14, which
Yeah.
is the worst time for any teenage girl to have their life picked up and moved. Like, just you're emotionally already on like a very fine line of
Right, exactly.
getting through things. And so basically at some point my mom said, you have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to do something. And so I joined the school musical,
Mm-hmm.
which was The King and I.
Nice.
And I just fell in love with being backstage, watching rehearsals, sitting in the audience when the sets were getting built. And so through that I kind of was like, oh, maybe this performing dance thing is where I want to go.
Nice.
And so I found a tiny little dance studio where I lived, and it's what a later teacher of mine would have called a Dolly Dinkle studio. Yeah. Which is just the bare bones of nothing really.
Right.
And then they closed in the summer, and I thought, oh, that's lame.
Yeah.
I'm not in school, I have all this time, and I want to be dancing. Mm-hmm. And so I went online and I found all these different summer programs that I had no idea I couldn't get into, like the School of American Ballet,
Mm-hmm.
1 year of dance training.
Right, simple.
But I had no idea what it was. And I found this one that my mom let me go to called the Central Pennsylvania Youth Ballet, and it was only 45 minutes away. So my mom was like, sure, you can do that for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know about it, it's one of the top ballet schools in the country. And
I know.
I just basically got so lucky.
Well, how ironic you're like, oh, I wouldn't go to SAB, but instead you're going to go to the feeder school into
Into
SAB.
SAB, yes. Which SAB is now run by Darla Hoover, who was one of Marcia Delweir's first students at CQIB.
Yeah. Most of New York City Ballet is either taught by, run by people with connections to
Yeah, John Stafford is also, he's from the Central Pennsylvania Youth Ballet.
Right.
He and his sister Abby were both principals at New York City Ballet before he went on to being, the new co-director of New York City Ballet.
Amazing. So was it fairly balancing training?
Actually not. It's she ended up sending a ton of people to New York City Ballet.
Right.
But Marcia she never danced anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was actually 18 years old, she went from Carlisle, Pennsylvania to New York City
Mm-hmm.
and auditioned, and people laughed at her.
Ah.
She didn't have the training. She didn't really know what she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
She had all this passion.
Mm-hmm.
And so what she did is she would go back to Pennsylvania and she would work and she would save money, and then whenever she had enough money, she would come up to New York City and take classes from anyone she could take classes from.
Yeah.
And so from that, she just kind of picked and choose of all these different techniques of what she really liked. So some stuff she does was really Cicchetti, some stuff was really Vaganova, some stuff was inspired by Valentine, but it was very classically based, very, very we just learned how to turn our legs out nonstop and work on the musculature of everything really intensely.
I mean, master teachers throughout that school was legendary.
Yeah,
so.
and now they have a big training program for teaching people how to train.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And how was that experience starting so late? Because like you're what, like 15 when you start there,
Yeah.
and like.
So when I fully started at the main school, I was 16 because my mom had spent my whole childhood driving me to and from gymnastics.
Yeah.
So she was like, I'm not doing this again.
Right. You need to get that driver's license to take yourself.
So when I turned 16 and I got my driver's license, that was the jump off. I was allowed to drive myself there. It was humbling. So Marcia did everything based on your technique and where you were. And so I was 16 and I was in class with 7-year-olds. Wow. And I was a lot taller than them. Like that's who I was in class with.
But you have that like foundational training.
Yeah.
Which is so
for
nice.
about, I think for 2 years, well, a year and a half, I was like really with like children who came up to like the bottom of my ribcage.
Yeah.
And then I was able to move a little faster than them. So I did progress up the higher levels.
Yeah.
But no, I mean it was humbling.
Yeah.
But it was amazing because it was this foundational level of like really understanding how all the muscles work.
Yeah.
So I've never like just, which is good because I don't have a body that can do it, but I've never just like put my body in a position and not thought about like how my muscles are reacting and how everything is working.
Right. Which is like one of the things almost that is so nice when you do start later is that like the way that you relate to it isn't just purely from a physical way of imitation.
Yeah.
You really understand the anatomy of what your body's doing.
Exactly, yeah. And Marcia actually used to always tell us, she was like, don't do it how I do it. She's like, I can't look good. I have a different body. You know, so we have to really understand how the muscles work and how everything works.
Yeah. So you said then you moved to New York. So what was that shift there? Like, were you gunning for Broadway kind of commercial dance? Did you not know? Was modern dance always the next thing? I'm guessing you didn't have a lot of modern dance training from there.
We would have, at CQIB, we had a teacher named John Reisling who danced for Alvin Ailey.
Okay.
And he was dating someone who was a teacher there.
Okay.
And so he would come in like maybe once a month, and in the summers he was there for like 5 weeks, and he would give us like a hoarding class once a month.
Right.
So that was my only like modern, was this like once a month hoarding thing. But I loved that man, and I really like related to him a lot. And it's interesting. We had a wonderful alumni here today teaching class, Susan McGuire, and we kind of chatted after class about different institutions, and we were saying how when I was at CQIB, it's like I knew everything about every teacher there. I knew where they danced, I knew what their favorite roles were, and all the dancers were really like nerdy about dance. So we would hang out in each other's houses at the end of the night, and we would watch like Killian videos, or we would watch like Revelations. And so I kind of like started to find Killian and Hoguado and all this more contemporary work, and was like, wow, this is what I want to do instead of ballet. So that's kind of what brought me to New York.
I see.
After high school, I knew I wanted to come to New York and study more modern stuff. So I had looking for a few places, got into the Ailey School. I was there as a fellowship student for a year.
Okay.
And that's kind of was like my launch into modern work.
And I'm sure you just like,
class.
Right, you just stretched out and took everything.
Yeah, and then I started taking classes at Steps and classes at the Grand School, and just like really tried to find all these different ways of moving that I found much more interesting. Right.
So, and then when did you find Paul's work and kind of your taste of Taylor?
I remember the first time I saw the company live, because I had seen
Dance in America.
We have a little bit more of like a YouTube presence now, but I feel like when I first started looking at the company, we had like just that one Esplanade video. It's like in like 1 through 5 sections.
Right.
So I would watch that a lot, but first time I saw the company live was Clothing Kingdom.
Oh wow.
And I just remember being so blown away by it, because first off I thought the orchestra had like messed up. Like once the drums and the percussion comes in, I was like, oh my gosh, they're messing up. This is crazy.
Right.
And then the movement was just so incredible. So that was like my first real taste of it, that it really got me in love with it.
Yeah.
And then I came down and I used to take ballet class every single day, and I loved ballet class. I had this one teacher I always took from, but when I started coming down here to take class, I remember when I first took Amy Young's class, it was kind of one of the first times I like looked at her body and the way she moved, and I thought, oh, there's like a place for me here. Because some Taylor is very like aggressive, and but he also always has like these kind of like more languid dancers. Yeah. And so kind of having a connection with Amy was something that inspired me.
Yeah, I mean,
to look at the work more.
Totally see that for you. You know, like she is just. I mean, you could say she's a lyrical dancer, but which to me, I don't know. I don't want to undercut her because she's amazing so much. But like when I look at her in a class, it is so apparent like how it's like she's a lyrical dancer, but like she's like her body is so amazingly tailored. So it's so gorgeous.
Yeah, and it's like she's long and lanky, and she has so much like she is very muscular, but she kind of just does it in this more kind of like catch and releasey way.
Right.
That is just so beautiful on her.
Yeah, exactly. Like the poise that she had as like a very elegant woman while also not being too stiff or controlled. Yeah. And not delicate. Like she's not delicate. Right, exactly. Which you wonder like, is that just from like growing up in Seattle? You know, like that very like that's what I love about
Western.
Like Amy is just like her hair looks immaculate like in a French twist, but at the same time she could be like walking in the woods hiking at the same time. Which you wonder if like that was something that like got called. But I remember watching her and Truz in Mercuric Tidings and that central duet and just how gorgeous the two of them were together because they moved so differently, but they looked so kind of perfectly together.
Which is kind of, I think, always one of the hallmarks of something that I love about both Taylor's dances and his dancers is that they can be so different, and they can both like people can approach the movement differently, but if it's done correctly, it's like it still looks like it's together and it's similar, with everyone being so different.
Right. So you started studying at the school, and then when you got in by audition, correct? What was the story behind that? Because I know it wasn't like something that. It wasn't like an audition where like it had been posted for 6 months or
so. No, it was weird. It was a weird audition. So as I'm sure you know, once people don't really leave this company very frequently, and so when someone does leave, there's kind of like a little rumor mill of like, okay, who's leaving?
Totally.
Like they're having an audition, what's happening? But no one had any information about it really because the company was on tour in China when this was posted, and so no one really knew like who was leaving, what was happening. And so part of me thinks that was kind of good because I didn't know, like sometimes you get a little nervous that you're like, okay, well, like the blonde girl leaves, maybe this is my only time to get in.
Totally.
It's like the blonde girl left.
Right, exactly.
And so I just kind of, I went and I don't know, like that day just felt different. It felt really calm. I felt really kind of like motherly in the room. Like I was really like excited about how well everyone was dancing. Like I was just so happy to see some of the students that I knew at the school, like just how well I definitely didn't think I was going to get the job because some people were dancing just so incredibly well. Right. And I was like, oh, it's definitely her day. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it was my day. Yeah. And it moved really quickly once Paul got in the room. I remember like he kind of had his eye on me from the very first time I did Scudorama, and it was just kind of moved very quickly from there on out.
That was the audition. That was the selection.
The first thing, so it was the first thing we learned that day. No, it was the second thing we learned that day was the women's trio from Scudorama.
Oh my gosh.
And when Paul came in, I know Rob Klein-Dorst asked him like, here are the things you can see. What would you like to see? And Paul chose Scud as the first one, and Rob was like, good luck, guys. Good luck.
I mean, if anybody's ever seen the women's trio from Scud, they know that like that separates the masters from anybody else. Just like that trio is incredible.
But it's one of the most fun things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I got to do it at the season last season, 2019.
Right.
And it was just getting to do that piece it's a small cast. It's a piece that doesn't come back that often.
Right.
So aside from it being my audition piece, which felt kind of really cool and special, it was also just being a part of that dance it feels like this awesome thing to hold as a Taylor dancer.
Right. You've been thrown into like a lot of like the dark work because like you've done the Girl in Pink and Last Look and Tossed Around. You've done Scud. Dust. I mean, we're like all like three of those.
I like the dark things.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Well, and I think that like I think it like we were talking about before. It's that like quality of like you are such a lovely, beautiful girl, but like at the same time,
I could be in the woods, like climbing a mountain somewhere.
Exactly, but at the same time, you can go into that dark place of like angularity and like a little bit like offness. So,
and Last Look was such a cool one.
Yeah.
That's it. And you did get to dance that
No.
No, I thought that you had gone into it, or you were about to go.
I was about to, and then that pandemic happened, and I was like, I don't know if I'm like happy or sad about this. I was like, it was the very next week I was supposed to go into it, and I was like, and then it didn't happen.
Yeah,
so.
It's, I don't know, that dance is so special because you start in this pile in the middle of the stage,
right?
And there's all these mirrors around you, and once you start climbing off the pile, you really have no. You can't notice. You don't notice the audience.
Yeah.
You just feel like you're in this world with no one else besides the dancers, and you don't leave the stage at all.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, once you get in the pile and the curtain's about to go up, you're just like, okay, here we go. Like, see you on the other side of this.
What other roles have you really enjoyed taking on? I know like Roses with Michael Apuzzo has been one we've been doing for. You did it for 2 seasons now that we've had it. I remember doing. When I was in my old part, we did it together, and then now in the new part. I know, we're like, but that's got to be special.
Yeah, and it's really nice to get to revisit it again. Yeah. I feel like once you get to revisit a dance, there's something very special about that. Once again, a dance where once you enter the stage, you don't leave it.
Right.
Because he made both those dances in the same year.
I think so,
yeah. Roses and Last Love were the same year.
Yeah, I think he was happier making Last Love than Roses. But
I think he was always happier making
the dark piece.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's been a really cool one to investigate again, and especially since we have so many newer dancers in the company. It's interesting because when we first went into it, it was like we were the babies.
Oh yeah, totally. It was like you, me, and Alex are all just kind of like, well, everybody else has done it before.
Yeah. Well, and Madeline and Kristin, they hadn't done it before either.
Oh,
we were a very new cast.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It was kind of like Heather and Sean Mahoney, kind of like holding it down.
Yeah. But other roles, I mean, it's funny. I have a lot of roles actually that I get to dance with you quite often, which is really lovely. And I think Syzygy was just like.
Oh my gosh, Syzygy.
That's one of my most favorites, and we've gone to revisit that a few times.
We have. Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day, and our like backstage shenanigans to get ready for that like killer duet.
That killer duet.
Yeah.
We just have to come out flying.
Like balls to the wall.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But that's such a fun part of Syzygy.
Yeah, totally. Like, is this next entrance going to like be able to like get me there?
And you're just gonna be able to make it through the rest of the piece. The very first jeté in that piece, I always think like, I'm not ready for this. Because I could be so warm. I could have just run Esplanade, and I'm still like, I don't know if I'm ready to do this.
Right. Wow. This last little bit, I want to talk a little bit about Lauren Lovett's world premiere coming up. Please catch it opening night, March 24th. But I was thinking about like you and your like, as we established, you have like a really solid ballet background, and I know that like you have a lot of connections in the ballet world because you went to school with so many of them and go see it. So maybe talking a little bit about the process of working with Lauren, because like I know from my point of view, I was very much like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like I have like this amazing classical Balanchine ballerina coming, and here we are, this like barefoot modern dance company. So I had no idea what to expect when she came into the room and what she was going to do. But I know what I have. But maybe you wanted to start off by discussing like what your experience was been like.
Well, one of the things I keep thinking about when I think about Lauren is I think about she is one of the first like ballet people to come in and work with us.
Right.
But we always talk about the family tree that's like Paul, Graham, and Merce.
Right.
Kind of like that family tree. But there's another family tree which is like in the ballet world.
Right.
And so, Paul worked with, sorry, I have like a little bit of a sore throat.
We're all good.
Paul worked with Balanchine, and I had conversations with Betty where she has told me that she saw like there was just a massive difference in Paul's choreography from when he worked with Balanchine. He said everything afterwards was different. And so I keep thinking about that with Lauren coming in, because while she hasn't grown up doing our repertory, she has grown up doing Balanchine's.
Yeah.
Which highly influenced Paul.
Totally. Balanchine is the king of form, right? And like that is something that I have.
And like spatial structure, which is what Paul is so brilliant at too.
Well, I remember working with Ruthie for so long, and she was just like, the day he made Merc, it's just like, where did this come from? Because like the company had expanded, and it's like all of a sudden he's creating this crazy zany thing to Schubert, where like everybody's fitting in and around each other, and it was a symphony in dance form, of which I don't think he had really like so much been involved with before when the company was smaller. even though like something like a dance like Esplanade is structurally intricate and amazing. But yeah, so
like those entrances and exits in Merc are just like insane. I know anyone who has talked to me who was in the original cast, they just thought they were gonna get into like a car accident with each other,
right,
at all times.
Right. My favorite story is like Betty yelling at George Smallwood to be like, if you miss an entrance, just stay off stage. No one will miss you. Like there's too much going on. But yeah, I agree. There's something about Lauren having that lived experience of being inside Balanchine's world, Robin's world, and bringing that into the studio.
Yeah, bringing like that. She really like understands structure.
Yeah, totally. But at the same time, like, ironically, I think that like this piece, I don't know, I do a lot of spins in it, but as compared to like a Pam Tanowitz that's coming from more like Cunningham sort of thing, I feel like we do less Petit Allegro. I feel like what she's given us so far for this piece, maybe specifically, has been, you know, quite grounded, quite contemporary in what she's doing. I mean, her body is amazingly supple, and like when she does an arabesque, I'm like, I don't want to repeat that. I can't do it like for you. But, you know, like, it is a testament to her that, like, you know, it isn't a reliance on classical ballet as a form. It's much more different, and it is kind of strangely connected to us and what we do.
She's been really great at seeing what our bodies do.
Right. But that musicality, though. I mean, we've been joking about this process because, you know, with Lauren, it's like, it's the speed that gets me, where she's like, oh, we can fit every note in this right now, you know? And like, I think that like that's the hallmark of the City Ballet is about like the like, we can fit it all in. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's fast. Yeah,
her musicality has been very Balanchine.
Right. Yeah, it's incredible what we're able to do. For these last few minutes, I wanted to invite anybody that has a question. You can use the little like question mark and a thought bubble down at the bottom, or just write in the comments if you have a question for Kristin or I about anything having to do with anything. At all. I mean, let's try to keep it to dance people. But, you know, something we didn't talk about a little bit before was you did West Side Story.
I did.
You did like an international tour, right?
That was my first international tour, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, where was some of your favorite places that you've been?
I'm so sorry, guys. Were you at the tour in Trieste with us, right?
That might have been in Italy before me.
Oh, okay. I got to go there, which is a really cool town in Italy.
Yeah.
But the coolest was we spent like a month in Malaysia.
Oh, wow.
Which was really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were the audiences like into the piece? Like
the audiences were into it. We had to like change certain things.
Really?
Of the piece, since it's not a Muslim country, but
but it does kind of have
it does have like a social structure, so we had to change certain things to do it there.
Right. But obviously, like the Robbins piece is just so strong.
The Robbins work is so strong, and it was such a good primer for Paul's work because he's such a storyteller.
Right. It's all about character and gesture.
Yeah.
Which I think, you know, so much about Paul's work is about like, you might not have like a character behind it, like a named character in a script.
No one's like painted you.
Right, you're not Bert number 3, but you know, like you do. There always does seem like a reason dramaturgically in a certain sort of way that you are doing something.
Well, I know there's stories about Robbins that he would, he wouldn't like give you a step. He would say like, go as if you're like chasing a kite right now.
Right.
You would choreograph. And I think Paul was like that too.
Oh, very much so. Ruthie told me a story once about doing Snow White, and he gave her the thing of like your arms are like vines, and the guy behind you is becoming entwined.
Ooh.
I'm like, yeah, that sounds very similar.
Yeah. So that was a good primer for me.
Yeah. What has been your favorite dance to perform? Do you have a favorite?
I do, and it's like such a cop-out one. It's Esplanade. Yeah.
But I think Esplanade is such a good one because there is such variety amongst the sections. So like each of them does feel like a different dance to me.
Yeah.
Even though they like have such similar material.
And now I'm in a new role, so it's interesting to like experience it in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because before you were doing like more of the girl, Which one were you before? And it was in like our opposite structure.
Yeah, the opposite structure. So I did like the girl who comes in and tries to stop the woman.
Oh, right. You did, yeah, exactly, the one that's running around. And now you're doing the
little girl.
fall at the end, which always seems like the most fun like solo you could do, because you just like it to come on and take that space and then bam, bam, bam.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of the first times they see it.
Yeah. Laura was asking about what are there any dream roles that you have that you like might want to do? No pressure.
No pressure. Speaking of Merc, I love the lead role in Merc.
Yeah.
The
Captain Camper.
Yeah. I mean, I love fast foot work. I love Petito Allegro. I love jumping.
Right.
And that slow section of that's the second section is so gorgeous.
Oh my gosh. How it all like feeds into each other. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
I love that dance so much.
I do too. I wanted to come back.
I know. Well, and that's the thing. Some people are like, Merc is too much for me, but like, I'm always kind of like, I don't know, it could be a fun challenge.
Yeah, and I feel like I would come out of it really strong.
Right. Gosh, I would like to interview somebody for like Miami City Ballet that like had to take on that, because they're doing it in ballet slippers.
Oh, I can give you that. I can have friends who
You're like, I can hook you up. Okay. we'll do a comment.
I don't know how they do it in ballet slippers.
I don't know either, because I need that traction. I need to be grounded in order to like jump from somewhere. Yeah. More pink. Just remember that pink buffet. Betty being like, it needs more pink. It's about over the topness. If you go here, it needs to be there. Any other roles that you can think of?
Well, speaking of like slightly dark ones.
Yeah.
I think the lead in Sakura is just.
Yeah, the Ruthie.
Yeah, the Ruthie.
Woo! White unitards.
That's a challenge in a different way.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And that flatness, but with the character in there too.
Character, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I hope these come about soon.
I just hope the dances themselves come back soon.
I know. It's going to be really interesting to see, with Lincoln Center coming up later, what's coming back and what's staying or whatnot. But before then, we have fab parts to do. You look amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks. I can't wait to see Roses and your time with Michael. Last ones.
The last few times with Michael.
And also to premiere Lauren Lovett's piece, because I can't wait to see it in costumes and lighting.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And then that scarf. What happens? I'm not giving anything away. Anyway. I want you all to please, if you have a chance, we'd love to see you at our season. It's March 24th through the 31st. We will be premiering Lauren Lovett's piece the opening night. That is Program A on March 24th, but you can catch it throughout our run. Amazing music, and we'll have live music for Orchestra St. Luke's. We're so excited about it. Program A, Program B with Larry Kagan's Rush Hour, special Program C with Esplanade coming back. We'll both be there. Closing night. And a return to City Center, our old home for so long. But I want to thank Kristin so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And we'll see you next time. Have a great day, and be well. Bye.